Well, of course, we start up the service, and what do we get? We get phone calls immediately. So excuse me for that little lapse. And Brother Kenneth is here today with liturgy number 1, and we've got Steve McGuire, who's going to be doing the bold part as usual. And I'm Jackson Snyder. Today I'm your host, looking for a new host. Have anybody in mind? Please let me know. We need a couple more. So let's go directly into the service and the meditation there. So I'm going to ask the Heisen to put it up here for us. Pistis. It has been translated in English since the very first English Bibles as faith. But Greek scholars have been changing their mind lately, that it doesn't actually mean faith, but it means something very similar to faith, similar to them, but something quite different to us. And that is trust instead of faith. And I started reading trust into the places that say faith, and I sure do come out with a different idea. It's a good idea. It's even better than the idea of faith. What's the difference between trust and faith? Faith comes from our belief system, and it's therefore permanent within us. But trust doesn't come from our belief. Trust is built through our relationship with someone we build over a period of time. Trust is not permanent. Trust has to be identified and practiced every day. Every day. Every day is new. Well, let me give you an example. In the scripture, one place where faith is defined, it is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And that's in Hebrews 11, which we'll do a little more in just a minute. In other words, faith involves trusting in something you cannot explicitly prove. It's a hope. But faith is also inseparable from trust. It's the confidence that Elohim can and will do what he says in his word, or what he says in your mind. Faith includes both intellectual assent to something that we trust in. So we believe something to be true through our faith, and trusting, we place our confidence in what we believe. We rely on it daily. Faith without trust, it's not faith. You got to have a both. Belief without reliance is empty, but you know that. Many people believe certain facts about, say, Yahshua HaMashiach, but knowing these facts to be true is not what the Bible means by faith, pistis. The biblical definition of faith requires trust in and a commitment to the facts from your own experience. Let's go over to Hebrews 11, just a couple of verses here, and let's try putting trust in where faith is, pistis, and see very briefly what we feel as the difference between the two. I'm going to go to Hebrews 11:13. Speaking of the patriarchs, these all died in trust, not having received the things promised, but having seen them and greeted them from afar, and having acknowledged that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. For people who speak thus make it clear that they are seeking, and here it is, a homeland. A homeland. there were a number of years in the pastoral ministry that I had to move every year, every 2 years, every 3 years, where I was to sent on to different churches that needed my help, such as it was. But I was in the United Methodist Church, which was an itinerant church. You had to move every couple of years. And so moving, a different house, think of it, different congregation, different church, everything's different. And then only staying for, say, a year and then going off someplace else. I asked the Father, where is my homeland? So I have something not only to have faith in, but a word that I can trust. That was a hard life. Well, not compared to survival or anything like that, but still, where is my home? We had no more family home at that time. I didn't have a home other than that. Let's continue on with Hebrews 11:15. If they had been thinking of that land from which they had gone out, they would have had opportunity to return. You can't return to something that you don't have. But as it is, they desire a better country. That is, a heavenly one. I wish I had the time to go on about this a little bit. But the Hebraist continues, therefore, Elohim is not ashamed to be called their Elohim, for he has prepared for them a city. Oh, Father, give me faith to trust more. Now, that entire chapter, which is called the faith chapter, you might want to call it the trust chapter from now on, is set up with one word, and that is now. Now faith, now trust. Faith is with you permanently, as I mentioned. It's always going to be there. It's based on doctrine. But trust, that has to be a now thing. It has to be, because it has to be day by day, renewed every morning. Try this as I give you a little challenge. Go back to Hebrews 11 at the top and try putting in trust for faith throughout the chapter. See what you feel. See if it makes a difference. Not just trust, but now trust or now faith. That word sets it all up. Amen. Thank you for listening. Isaac? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. No, we need the next slide, brother.
Okay. Is that where we want it?
Pledge of Allegiance.
The
Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you repeat after me, please? I pledge allegiance to the Torah.
I pledge allegiance to the Torah.
Of the kingdom of the beloved Son.
Of the kingdom of the beloved Son.
And the divine theocracy for which it stands.
And the divine theocracy for which it stands.
One Eloah, one nation, one head.
One Elohim, one nation, one head.
One faith, one attitude, one goal.
One faith, one attitude, one goal.
One baptism, one communion.
One baptism, one communion.
Ordained by Yahweh the Creator.
Ordained by Yahweh the Creator.
My nation is indivisible.
My nation is indivisible.
With divine liberty, equitable justice.
With divine liberty, equitable justice.
And eternal life for all. Amen.
And eternal life for all. Amen. We bless Yahweh and hear the kol shofar.
Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu leishmoa kol shofar.
Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, sovereign of the universe, who sanctifies us by your mitzvot and calls us to hear the kol shofar.
Do we have a shofar person?
Yes, I played it. I don't know. They're not coming through anymore on shofar. I think that Zoom has banished such tunes. You listen to it again. Listen to it again and see. Now. Did you hear that?
No, I think you're right.
No.
Yeah, shofar.
Trying to get rid of the shofar, aren't they? Wow.
I have one here I think will come through if you'd like to hear it. Hold on just a second. Oh, it's got the index. Continue to hold. I would like to hear that myself. Here we go.
Nope, I think they're censoring that too, Jackson.
Isn't that something? Censor the shofar?
That's
Oh,
amazing.
my, oh my, oh my. Maybe I will get in touch with them today or tomorrow and see if maybe they can't uncensor. Well, the tekiah was there. We did it in the spirit, if not anything else.
We bless Messiah.
Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu et dereka Yeshua b'Moshiach Yeshua. Amen.
Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, sovereign of the universe, who has given us the way of escape in Messiah Yeshua. Amen.
Ushavtim kayim mayim besason mimaynaya Yeshua.
So with joy we draw living water from the springs of deliverance. We bless each other.
On that day, Yaakov blessed his grandchildren. He said, in time to come, the people of Israel will use you as a blessing. They will say, may Elohim make you like Ephraim and Manasseh.
May Elohim make you like Ephraim and Manasseh.
Yismek Elohim kesera Rivka Rachel v'Leah.
May Elohim make you like Sarah, Rivka, Raquel, and Leah.
Yivarechaka Elohim v'yishmarecha, Ya'er Elohim panav elecha v'huneka, Yisa Elohim panav elecha v'yasim lecha shalom.
May Elohim bless you and watch over you. May Elohim shine his face towards you and show you favor. May Elohim be favorably disposed towards you and grant you peace. We enter the set-apart home.
Ma tovu ohaleka Yaakov, Mishkenoteka Yisrael. V'ani berov hasteka, avoveteka, eshtekave el haikal, kadshika birateka. Yahweh ahavti me'on beteka kon mishkan kevodeka. Va'ani eshtekave ve'echreha ivrecha lifnei Yahweh osi va'ani tefilati lecha Yahweh et ratzon Elohim berav hasdeka aneni be'emet yisheka.
How lovely are your tents, O Yaakov, your dwelling places, Israel. Through your abundant favor, we will enter your home. In awe, we will bow down within your set apart sanctuary. We love the home you live in and the place where your radiance resides. We will fall and bow, bending the knee before Yahweh our Maker. May our prayers to you be at the appropriate time. In your abundant righteousness, answer us with the truth of your rescue. We favor kin and Talmudim.
May it be your will, Yahweh, our Elohim and Elohim of our foreparents, that you show favor to us and all our friends and relations, especially those who are here this day with us, and that you grant us and all in Israel a good and long life, that you remember us with good thoughts, good blessings, that you consider us with your salvation and your compassion, that you bless us with great gifts and favors, that you make our households complete, that you cause your presence to dwell among us at all times.
Privilege us to train up our youth, proselytes, disciples, and all Talmudim in wisdom, understanding, and loving and revering Yahweh, and belonging to Yeshua, the Anointed One, and being committed to Him. Let them be people of truth, set apart for Yahweh, to illuminate the world with Torah and Tav Mitzvot, doing all in the service of Yahweh. Hear our supplication right now, and give us the same favor as our spiritual mothers and fathers. Cause our light to shine as a reflection of your face for all ages, so that all Israel might be saved. Amen.
Amen.
We recite Shema, Ve'avta.
Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malkuto, Leolam Vayet.
Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our Elohim. Yahweh is one. Blessed is the name of his esteemed kingdom forever.
ואהבת את יהוה אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך אהבת לרעך כמוך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך ודרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, יהיו לטפות בין עיניך וכתתם על מצוצות ביתך ובשעריך.
And you will love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And you will love your neighbor as yourself. Let these words that I command you this day be upon your heart. You will teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk upon the path, when you retire, and when you arise. And you will bind them for a sign upon your hand, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. And you will write them on the doors and gates of your house. And bless the
Baruch et
blessed.
Yahweh Hamavarach.
Baruch Yahweh Hamavarach Le'olam Vayed.
Bless Yahweh, the Blessed One.
Blessed is Yahweh, the Blessed One, for all eternity.
Remember the Shabbat day to keep it set apart.
6 days will you labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Shabbat of Yahweh your Elohim. In it you will not do any work.
Amen. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. That is why Yahweh blessed the seventh day and set it apart.
Speak also unto the children of Israel, saying, above all, my Shabbatot you will keep. For this is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, so that you may know that I am Yahweh who sanctifies you.
The Israelites are to observe the Shabbat, celebrating it for the generations to come as an enduring covenant.
It will be a sign between me and the Israelites forever. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he abstained from work and rested.
And it will come to pass that from one new month to another, and from one Shabbat to another,
All flesh will come to worship before me, says Yahweh. We minister shalom, shalom aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malakei Hasharet, Malakei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malkei Hamlakim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Boakem l'shalom, Malakei Hashalom, Malakei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malkei Hamlakim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Barkuni l'shalom, Malakei Hashalom, Malakei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malkei Hamlakim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu.
Shalom be yours, ministering Malachim, Malachim of the El Elyon, coming forth from the sovereign of sovereigns, the set apart one, blessed is he. May your coming forth be in shalom, Malachim of shalom, Malachim of the Most High, coming forth from the King of Kings, the set apart one, blessed is he. Bless us with shalom, Malachim of shalom, Malachim of the Most High, coming forth from the King of Kings, the set apart one, blessed is he. We give thanks and praise.
here's your opportunity, Eisen. Here's your opportunity to share with us your burden, your testimony, those things this week that Yahweh has done for you that you perceive, and those things that he's done for you by faith that you don't perceive yet, that you hope for. We have prayer requests as well. We'll take them. We pray. Who's first today?
Hey, Jackson, I'll start off by just giving thanksgiving to the Father. My son, my middle son, called me the other day, and it was really bad storm, winter storm in Michigan. And he does a tech job. He has to drive considerable distances in horrible weather, at least last few weeks, with that eastern storm that came through. He said, by the grace of Elohim, he came very close. They're very close calls. He was quite shaken about it. But you know what? I think our Father commands his angels to take hold of us and those in our family. And we continue to pray for them. So I'm very thankful for that. And just ask the Father would continue to watch over him.
Jackson, it's good to be here this morning with you. And I bless you and your wife. And I wanted to let you know that I had a very good blessing yesterday. Just out of the blue. I've been working, very, very diligently at my new job. And I had the owner of the place just came to me yesterday. I was wondering about I'm trying to get a loan for a car. And the owner came to me yesterday and said, whatever you need, I will provide it for you. Just like Yahweh does it all the time, and it was out of the blue. I didn't ask him to do that or anything, but it was a very good blessing. And I hope that you and your wife are doing well. I've been working on the composition that you gave me. I'm still not ready to present it to you, but it's getting there.
Oh, great, Byron. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'm good.
absolutely.
It's really good to see you today too.
Man, it's good to see you too, man. I'm sorry that I have been absent. It's just it's been kind of crazy. Like
Sure.
past couple of months have been, yeah. But we'll get together, and we'll talk. We'll have lunch sometime. Okay.
Great.
God bless.
That'd be great. Thank you again,
I
Byron.
love you, brother.
If you see your folks, say hi. We missed them last night.
I will.
Okay. Who else? Kenneth, my daughter got a clean report on the test for epilepsy. She no longer has to take the meds. Praise Yah. Amen.
Well, that is
What do they
amazing.
do in an epilepsy test?
I have no idea, but wow, that's just amazing, though.
Yeah, we had to go, and she had to stay overnight at the hospital with all kind of things hooked up, and they monitored her for 24 hours and while she slept for brain activity, and it all come back just perfect. So we're very thankful.
So they thought she had epilepsy before.
Yeah, because she had that massive seizure about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Well, let's just accept that as a blessing and a healing. That's a wonderful thing. Amen. Brother Emerson, are you raising your hand? I guess not.
Shalom. I'm just happy to be here with the service and been able to spend more time with my dad. That's a huge blessing. He moved to Florida not too long ago, and my stepmom will soon be coming. So we've been praying that they sell their house out there in Texas, and that's been going well. And something he was saying, he doesn't know exactly why he's here, but I know that a great reason why is for him to bond with us and the grandchildren. So it's been really wonderful spending that time together. I feel like the past month and a half, we spent more time together than we have in the past 10 years. Hallelujah.
Ah, great. And you lived very far away for a long time too. How many years was that you were in Calif?
Oh yeah, I was out there for like a year and a quarter.
Okay.
It was supposed to be 2 to 3 months. It kept getting extended.
It
So that
seemed
was
like
when
a
you do your
lot
job
longer.
well.
It seemed longer. I guess.
Oh,
We're
it
glad
definitely
you're
seemed
back.
long for me. I was working 50 and 60-hour weeks and being away from the family. It was crazy.
Well, if we hadn't said it before, good to have you back. Anybody else? Prayer requests? Well, let's give a quick shout out to Elohim. He knows our hearts. He knows our works. He knows where we're coming from. He knows what our needs are. Sometimes we only need to articulate those needs to get action on that. And he says,
I have a prayer request.
okay, good. Who is this?
This is Brother Jackson. Yeah. Last night we were praying, as we were praying for government. It came to my mind that we should be praying for the leaders in our governments here in the United States and all over that are of, if for lack of a righteous mindset. That we pray for those that are being silenced but are trying all they can to establish righteousness or to promote righteousness among the nation. So that's my prayer request.
That's a good one. And I just want to ask you a question about that. How should we pray in regards to the very unrighteous people that are governing this country right now? That is, at least in the capital city. How should we pray? Pray for them, pray against them, or just pray that, shall we say, their enemies will conquer? What do you think?
Well, I would say there's always room to pray for their repentance, and if not, their removal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very good answer. Thank you.
Okay, brother.
Anybody else? Yeah, that was a good answer. And a good directive as well. Maybe you spoke with the mouth of Yahweh today. All right. Let's have a word of prayer, shall we? It won't take more than a few words. Father Elohim, Yahweh, you know our hearts, our minds, our works, our failings, our successes, our needs, our necessities. You know them all. Look deeply into our hearts and bring forth within us what we really need in the spirit, in the kingdom, in that country we are to inhabit, in our heavenly home. Bring these thoughts and answers to our questions to our minds. You have already given us so many signs, yet we don't see them. We pray for these leaders in power, the top echelon. We pray, Father, that you would fulfill your purpose in them and then let them fall. Fulfill your purpose, then let them fall. We know you have a purpose in this. Let us not lose heart. Let us instead look toward faith, toward their end, and the coming forth of a better group of persons than we have now. And as happened at Asbury Seminary in the last couple of weeks, let a revival be poured out upon our country, a revival. We can't have a revival unless we're first alive. In the word of Ephesus, Paul says that people are dead in their sins. That means they're spiritually dead. We pray that you would bring them alive through the way of Yahshua HaMashiach. Bring our country alive, bring a revival onto those who have known you, walk with you, bring them back alive, and bring the world alive so that the prophecy concerning all the world will know the gospel could be completely fulfilled. All 7 billion. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And it shall be in the millennium time when you utilize us to win the world. Hallelujah. And again, we thank you for these wonderful answers to prayer that you've given us. It seems like we get more than our share. We want to thank you for that daughter of Kenneth, who could have been doomed to a terrible disease, but wasn't. And we're just going to give the credit to you fully. Now, as we go through the rest of the service, help us to enjoy your sweet spirit upon us. Help us to enter in. Help us to enjoy the message, the messenger. And most of all on Shabbat, give us peace. Amen. Isaac? Oh, of course, if you want to sing a psalm, you can. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Yahweh, our strength and our Redeemer.
Amen. Let the prophets prophesy.
Well, let me introduce the speaker one more time after we say, whatever the ark set out, Moshe said, arise, O Yahweh, and let your enemies be scattered, and let them that hate you flee before you. The prophet today is Jackson Souffrant. This is his second audition with us. We've been talking about putting him into the rotation of speakers for New Earth Restoration. And I guess maybe a couple of months ago, maybe less than that, he came and gave his first audition, and this is the second. Now, it's our policy in the Yahad to let someone speak, and after that, to judge it. That's the hallelujah way. And so listen carefully, enjoy the message, and tell us what your ideas are as well. We'll take them back to him. You can tell us by using our form. It is at Yahad, Y-A-H-A-D .me, yahad.me. It's that simple. Put that up in your address of your browser, and then type in what you think. And we take every comment we get very seriously. I thank you. Now I ask you, Father, to put your anointing hand upon my brother Jackson and his brother Felix, who's here today. Strong and mighty. It might even be that you give him completely new words to say, whatever it takes. We ask also that we might hear the prophet's voice through him, and we give you thanks for his presence and his desire to come here. All in Yeshua's name. Amen. Here's Brother Jackson Souffrant. Let's see if we've got him.
Happy Sabbath, dear brethren.
You look great.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All righty. It's an honor and pleasure to be with you again. As I pray and think about the willingness of Elohim to use whoever to do great things. If we are believing, if we could just be believing, just as I think about Gideon, you know, when he was called, he had to learn to believe. He was just one man, and he gathered together by the direction of the Eternal, a group of an army, to establish an army to deliver his people. And Elohim brought it down to what, 300 to go against a huge army. And of course, Elohim won. Elohim gave the victory to his people. When I think of where we are today, of all the wonderful things that we read, the testimonies we read in the scriptures about the people of Elohim, what he has done through them, what he has done for them. And looking at today, it is sad for me to see where we've been brought to the level that we've been brought to, the congregation of Elohim, the people of Elohim, organized by him, by his presence, by his spirit, to be where we are today is a sad thing. But in being believing, I know it doesn't have to stay that way, that we can change, that things, the greatness that Elohim wants to manifest through us can again be experienced, can again be seen by all for his praise and his glory and for the edification of his people. The last time I spoke about his workmanship, and in my mind, I knew it was a part of a unity message, a message on unity, which is what he has pressed hard on me. And basically that the people of Elohim need to unite, need to put aside all petty differences, things that are not a concern, a major concern to Elohim should not be a major concern to us. If Elohim can receive a person with certain faults, certainly we should. And so the people of Elohim have to unite so his power can come and manifest in us, so his spirit can work in us as he wants it to be. But we've been divided for so long that I think a lot of people, I've heard people express in different ways that it's an impossible task. It's not an impossible task. What's impossible for men is impossible to Elohim. All things are possible for those who believe. And so last time I spoke about that we are his workmanship, and part of that unity is to understand that we are his workmanship. We are the sheep of his pasture. We are his sheep. We're not our own, and we are also bought with a price. And that I mentioned how he had works foreordained for us to walk in. It's not works for us to make up. It's not for us to make up our own agenda and so on. But it's for us to read his script, his word, and see, okay, what is his people to? What are his people to be today? What are we supposed to be doing? Okay, and do it, and trust that he knows, and be believing that he knows what he is mandating, and that it will be a success if we put our trust, our faith in it. It was interesting when I heard Brother Snyder speak about faith earlier, and it immediately made me think of my other brothers, Gene Sylvain, who always says, faith, it's not a matter of faith, it's trust. And from there, and meditating on what my brother had said, I came to understand, like, faith is an understanding, a right understanding of something or someone that enables you to trust. So faith is that evidence or knowledge that enables you to trust. And so we need to have that understanding to trust Elohim, that no matter what we've seen happen with other groups, if we put our trust in Elohim, we can work to work in such a way that's united and be a vessel by which Elohim can unite his people. When he comes, he's coming to a bride without spot, right? Without spot or wrinkle. We can have that trust, like Gideon, even though we feel so weak and frail, to say, here I am, make me that vessel, a pure vessel who will surrender to your ways wholeheartedly, in your hope, in your faith, in your trust, in your love, to draw your people together. And so last time, again, what I did was present on that we are the works, that we are his workmanship. Today, I consider this part 2 of the unity message, which is to convey something important that it may not seem important, but it is important, is that Elohim's organization has one name. What is it? And why? Why? And so I'm going to go through the scriptures to show that Elohim, by his statute, by his will, and the way he interacts and addressed his people, has by statute named his organization, his organized people, the congregation of Elohim. And that's, there are different ways we can say that, but it has to be tied to Elohim, the owner of the congregation. It's the people of Elohim. It's the congregation of Elohim. It's the service of Elohim. So again, the purpose of this teaching is to show that Elohim has consistently addressed his organization as his congregation, more precisely the congregation of Elohim. And by so doing, establish this name by statute. Before reviewing Elohim's organization from the scriptures, let's quickly consider quickly consider some fundamental elements successful organizations use to present themselves for success and growth. And I'm going to be sharing some information with you. So I'm hoping that I'll be allowed to share, use the share screen feature. If not, we'll do without it. But if I could be allowed to share some information, that would be helpful. So let's consider, like, a business, for instance. We've all have worked or been at different businesses. We know that businesses will, in general, have one goal: well-branded products and or services, a specific established strategy, a particular meaningful name, employees, faculty to achieve success and growth. That's in a nutshell how elements that businesses and organizations use to function and succeed in what it is they're trying to do. So, and as organizations grow and spread to other locations, they normally employ the same strategic elements and of course the same name, because wherever they go, they want to be recognized, and they want whatever increase that they're gaining to be absorbed, to be recognized by that name. And we can see this where we go to, for instance, to go to bank, to eat, shop, work, even in government agencies, right? They have specific names. They all have specific names by which they are identified, so everyone needing their products or services can easily recognize and find them. They know a significant name is a key to maintaining their organization's growth and success. A significant name is a key to maintaining an organization's growth and success. Thus, an organization's name is important. How much more so the organization of Elohim, which is by far the most important organization on earth. Of course, Elohim in statute has expressed throughout the Old and New Testament scriptures, revealed the name he deems suitable for his own organization on earth. The scriptures depicts his organization of over 1 million people in some amazing ways. And of course, I'm speaking of the Old Covenant congregation. For instance, the Old Testament tells us that Elohim coordinated it so that each tribe had a specific banner, order, location, and distance around his meeting place or his tent of meeting, his Oel Moed, when setting camp and when traveling. And we see this through Numbers chapter 10, verses 11 to 28. They had a specific way by means of trumpet blast to alert and gather the multitudes for different purposes. Again, Numbers chapter 10, verses 1 through 10. They were even given specific verbal alerts for traveling and camping as recorded in the book of Numbers. And quote, and it came to pass when the ark set forth that Moshe said, rise up, O Eternal, and let your enemies be scattered, and let them that hate you flee before you. And when it rested, he said, return, O Eternal, unto the many thousands of Israel. That's found in Numbers chapter 10, verses 35 to 36. Before I continue, am I allowed to share information on the screen? I would like to do that
You're all
now.
set to do that, yes.
Okay, thank
All
you.
set. Mhm.
All right, so it's not going to be anything fancy, but important, just some text, some verses that I will go
Okay.
over, and I would like it to be
That's fine.
visible.
And
As
hello to
we-
Cherie. That was Jackson's daughter, I believe, right?
Yes,
Yes,
thank
hello.
you.
Nice to see you. We going to sing one of these days?
Like maybe, hopefully, maybe.
Okay.
All right. So thank you very much for setting that up for me. So as recorded in the book of Numbers, we see also, quote, so it was always the cloud covered it by day and the appearance of fire by night. That's in Numbers, the book of Numbers. And when the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle, then after that, the children of Israel journeyed, and in the place where the cloud abode, there the children of Israel pitched their tents. At the commandment of the Eternal, the children of Israel journeyed, and at the commandment of the Eternal, they pitched. As long as the cloud abode upon the tabernacle, they rested in their tents. And that's in Numbers chapter 9, verses 16 to 18. So the old covenant company, association, or people, organization of Elohim was a large, united, and well-organized and led by Elohim. And understandably, some of the surrounding nations were terrified of them, as the scriptures report. Now, just think about what our presence, or what are we like today in the world? Do people respect us? What are we like? Think about that. When they think of quote unquote church or congregations, what comes to their mind? But here we see the old covenant congregation or people of Elohim were feared, respected, well organized, empowered, and united. So likewise, the new covenant establishment of Elohim was also once united, organized, empowered, well organized, and feared. The new covenant scriptures state, starting with Acts chapter 2, verse 40, quote, and with many other words, he testified and exhorted them, saying, be saved from this perverse generation. Then those who gladly received his word were baptized, and that day about 3,000 souls were added to them, and they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship, in the breaking of bread, in prayers. Verse 43, then fear came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were done through the apostles. Now, all who believed were together and had all things in common. That's Acts chapter 2, verses 40 to 44. So in verse 46, we see, so continuing daily with one accord in the temple and breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart. Verse 47, praising Elohim and having favor with all people. Do we have favor with all people? Do we have a large company of people that the whole world recognizes as one and has favor? Continuing and so continuing daily with one
Show
accord
us
in
the bottom of that. Show us the bottom of that text, because we can't see it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, good, good.
All right. So thank you for that. And so lost track of where I'm. Yeah. So they were gladly received, and they had favor of all people. And what happened? And the sovereign, the absolute ruler, Messiah added to the ecclesia, to the congregation daily, to those who are being saved. Again, Acts chapter 2, verses 46 to 47. So more is stated in Acts chapter 5 from verse 11. So great fear came upon all the ecclesia and upon all who heard these things. And through the hands of the apostles, many signs and wonders were being done among the people. And they were all in one accord in Solomon's porch. In Solomon's porch. So verse 13, yet it says, yet none of the rest dared join them, but the people esteemed them highly. And verse 14 says, and believers were increasingly added to the sovereign multitudes of both men and women. That's in Acts chapter 5. Verses 11 to 14. So the New Covenant Scriptures is replete with proofs of the unity, synchronization, the power, and distinction Elohim granted his New Covenant organization. It's amazing. Yet sadly today, this greatest of organizations, once regarded all over the world as a divinely guided, beneficent, effectual representative of the kingdom of Elohim, is now scorned as mere businesses led by greedy and self-serving charlatan ministers. How many times, send us this money, do this and you'll get thousands, it's just about money. So this once healthy, functioning body of believers has been disrupted and scattered all over with the lure of false shepherds. Contrary to the scriptures, they form numerous denominations under various names by which they confuse, divide, and detain the servants of Elohim. Of course, long before this present condition, Elohim, through his apostles, admonished and warned the congregation of this then impending evil. In 1 Corinthians chapter 1, starting at verse 10, the apostle Paul admonishes, now I plead with you, brethren, by the name of our sovereign Yeshua Messiah, that you all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. Verse 11, for it has been declared to me concerning you, my brethren, by those of Chloe's house, that there are contentions among you. Now I say this, that each of you says, I am of Paul, I am of Apollos, I am of Cephas, or I am of Messiah. Is Messiah divided? Was Paul crucified for you, or were you baptized in the name of Paul? That's in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 10 to 13. So the point here is that there was one organization, and what one does affects the other. And Paul here is warning against this divisive mindset where they're becoming maybe potential cults of personality, where one is gravitating to Paul or one is to another. These type of things ought not to be in the congregation of Elohim, among the people of Elohim, but it is. But think, Elohim, that people like this group, Yahad, and others are working to fix the problem. I know that. And sometimes the problem of unity, this great divide, it seems so impossible, but it's not. It's not. Let's continue. To fix it is not impossible. We need to be willing and believing. So as early as the first century, so from that point on, as early as the first century, divisions began within the organization. And the elder James or Jacob revealed a root cause of this, division. What did he teach? He taught, quote, asking a question, what causes quarrels? And what causes fights among you? What does that? What causes this division? And he answered, is it not this, that your passions or your lust are at war within you? James chapter 4, verse 1. So importantly, the Greek word translated as passions is hedone, which means sensual delight, desire, lust, and pleasure. So per this statement from the elder Jacob, the root cause is a hedonistic mindset of which many did not repent of. I say many did not repent of. That's why we are here today, because we have lots of so-called leaders that have their own passion, their own perspectives of things. And so rather than staying together, they pull others to be with them. And so divide the flock. So over the course of many years, this mindset spread and spiraled out of control, splitting the once united organization into Eastern and Western factions. Some refer to this breakup as the Great Schism of 1054, right? In brief, the cause of this all is attributed to power struggles among the bishops, differences and disunity in doctrine, and the influence of elders. They have different opinions and they're drawing others. So true to James' teaching, these causes of division all stem from personal human desire rather than from the spirit and will of Elohim. From this schism, more and more elders and personalities continued to cause factions, drawing the unwary to themselves. Now being over 40,000 different denominations, these groups have their own agenda and their own distinctive names apart from Elohim. They claim to be all one body somehow, yet none are willing to unite. And I say the none are those who are divisive. Rather, while one denomination is promoting a matter, another is working to tear the same thing down. As evident by their outright disregard for the word of Elohim, they are led by their own lust and desires to please the world, not Elohim. Many sincere believers have spent a great deal of effort, money, and time trying to serve in these denominations, only to discover that they were supporting unbiblical organizations. I think many of us here today can identify with that unpleasant experience. The effort and years we may have invested in unbiblical denominations that refuse to repent from falsehood. But thanks to Elohim, we have left these divisive associations. But consider there are many other sincere believers that either do not yet realize they are in unscriptural groups or do know, but do not know where else to go. But we know that the Son of Elohim will one day and forever remove this falsehood of denominations and names and all these various names and along with all evil. While we wait on him, we must make sure we are doing everything fully in his way. Those of us that want to be united and those of us that want to unite others, let's focus on doing things his way. This includes making sure that we are not divided in denominations or different names. Although the servants in Elohim's organization may have different roles, they all serve consciously and concertedly as one organization, as one body, indeed, not just in some sort of imaginary way. Oh, saying, oh, we're united, we're one body, we serve one Elohim, but then we're tearing down each other, where what one is building, one is pulling down. No, it's evident that that so-called one body unity is no longer present with us. for as representatives of Elohim. It may be with us here in this little group, but we have to think beyond being a little group. We have to think about there is a need to unite the entire body of Messiah. It's not impossible. It can be done. And it actually will be done. We can be a part of it. For the scripture tells us Elohim has indeed one true organization. Okay. So in the scriptures, we see, for instance, in Romans chapter 12, verses 4-5, for as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office, so we, being many, are one body in Messiah, and everyone members of one another. How are we members of one body when so many people are speaking different things? Mind you, the denominations will not come together. They don't want to. That's why they are denominations. But as mentioned, just as many of you, including myself, spent many years in false denominations and eventually left once I understood they were not correct, there are others who want to do the same. Okay? There are others who want to do the same. We can facilitate that for them. We can make that easier for them by reaching out to them. And many will say no. Remember Moses? Moses was set in such a way, a single man, to deliver an entire people. He thought some would have understood, but then they did not, and he ended up fleeing for his life. But that one man, because Elohim knew what was in his heart, Elohim used him to gather his people, to set them free out of the bondage of Egypt, that we did not allow them to promote the name Elohim, the name of the Yud-Heh-Vav, the great name. Likewise, we were once a strong organization, united, but through falsehood and lies, we have been divided. It's not by truth we have been divided. It's by falsehood and lies. The truth never divides. The truth is one thing, even as Elohim is one. So you can see the references I have there, for I won't read them all for the sake of time, but looking at the second to the last one, verses says in Ephesians 4, verse 4, there is one body and one spirit, even as ye are called in one hope of your calling. So given all the above proofs of the type of unity Elohim expects of his organization, the body of Messiah, there is no room for any superfluous and divisive things, including something as simple but powerful as the name of his organization. As touched on earlier, an element of an organization's growth and success is having a meaningful representative name. Yes, this is about unity. This is just one point of how we can get to that unity. There are others to be covered another day, but today I want to focus on the name. Because if an organization is to be united, but has a whole bunch of different names, what will happen is that the names will serve as a wedge between the body. That's why you need one name. So that there's no wedge, there's no fence to insulate the various different opinions. Rather, there's one name, and so all can come together and be accountable to each other. But for instance, if one group is called Group A and they claim to be part of the same organization, but Group B does something wrong that's supposed to be part of the same organization, Group A will say, well, that's Group B. I'm sorry, Group B has this issue, but it's not our issue. Isn't that what you see today? Do the so-called united body of Messiah, do they hold each other accountable for what they teach? No. So the so-called ethereal body doesn't exist. It used to. That unity used to exist. We could reclaim it. And we must get rid of the various names that allow that strength, that work as a barrier to keep us apart. because this is so-and-so group, so-and-so congregation. We are this congregation. So what they do has to do with them. We're not a part of that. So there's no unity. And again, there are people who want to be united. We're not looking for the people who don't want to be united. We're to look for those who want to be united, for those who will. Just as Elohim is not looking to save, just anybody. He's looking for whosoever wills, as whosoever believes will be saved, right? So it's whoever will. Let's find those whosoevers out there and work to unite them and bring them under one name. So what name? What name? So in the following, we will look at some names found in the Old Testament and in the Old Testament. To manage my time, I won't read everything, but I'll put them on the screen so that you can view the references. So I'm hoping that some of you are considering the idea that it makes sense to have one name. If that is so, what would that one name be? What would that one name be? Well, in the Old Testament of our common Bibles, there are several different Hebrew words translated as congregation and sometimes assembly. 4 of which that I've personally noted the most are the words Ada, Kahal. Kehillah is used a lot, but I actually saw Kehillah I saw about twice. And Moed, believe it or not, I've seen Moed occurring quite a bit. And we'll look at some verses and consider how these are used and their meanings. So below is a summary of the meaning and usage of these Hebrew words, sometimes translated as congregation. Knowing these Hebraic expressions and understanding how they were used in scripture can provide insight of what Elohim's organization was named and why. So the first word I said is Ada, and briefly you can see what I'm saying here. According to sources I found, it's a feminine expression of the H of Hebrew of Strong's H5707 in the original sense of fixture, something that's set, a stated assembly, specifically a concourse or generally a family, a crowd, assembly, company, congregation, multitude of people, even swarm. So, and I found that this word, at least in our common Bibles, was the one most translated as congregation in the Old Testament. And you can see a few of these references here, and I won't go through all of them, but in Numbers 27 and so on, it shows how the word is used. And this is just a sample of the many references, verses in the scripture, in the Old Testament scripture, where this word Ada is being used. So it says, who may go, like in Numbers 27, verse 17 says, who may go out before them and who may go in before them and who may lead them out and who may bring them in, that the congregation, that the Ada of Yud-Heh-Vav of the eternal be not as sheep which have no shepherd. If I recall, this is Moses praying to Elohim, requesting that someone replace him to lead the people. Of course, that would be Joshua. Looking beyond this, let's look at how this is used. Notice it's the congregation of the Yud-Heh-Vav, of the eternal, right? It's always the congregation of the eternal. Yes, and in some occurrences use the congregation of Israel, drawing attention to the people. But in relationship to Elohim, when we're identifying ourselves with, when it's identified with Elohim, it's clearly identified as the congregation, the Ada of the eternal, or of the of the eternal. So that there's that connection between the congregation, the people, the organized people. It's not just people. It's just not people, but it's a organized people, which is a congregation. And it's not just an assembly, like somebody, it's even though somebody's translated, but it's not assembly, it's something fixed, it's something continuous. Assembly is what the congregation does. The congregations can have an assembly, like when we are assembling today. Today is a Sabbath assembly. We have assemblies for the holy days, right? For the days of unleavened bread and so on. These are assemblies, but the organization, the fixed organization, is referred to often as the congregation or the Ada of Elohim, or Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. And this occurs about 140 times, 149 times, and it's the one I've seen more frequently used. The next is Kahal, which is what I was actually more familiar with. Ada, I actually learned about Ada in course of preparing for this. I was very familiar with Kahal Elohim, but I found that Ada is used more so than Kahal Elohim, but Kahal is also used widely. It usually means an assemblage, usually concrete, again, firm. It's an assembly, a company, a congregation, a multitude. So Kahal. And we find that it occurs about 123 times in the scriptures, 86 of those times connected with as congregation of Elohim. Also, as we saw in Ada, out of the 149 times, Ada is translated 124 times. So these words are used more closely to mean the congregation of Elohim than the other expressions, right? So we see some, let me scroll down so you could see this a little bit, some verses here with Kahal. Go too much. Thank you for your patience. I'll try to keep this concise as possible. So Kahal, so that's the other one, 123 times. And out of that, 86 times in our common Bibles, it's translated as congregation. So the next word is Kahila. Let's see that. Oh, before I do that, let's go back up. Yeah, right there. If you notice that last portion that says congregation of Elohim in Nehemiah 13, verse 1. As I was doing this, that's the first occurrence I saw that the word Kahal was connected with the word Elohim. Again, that's how our Bibles are translated. There could be more if we do a more exhaustive search using other search means, but from the translations in Nehemiah 13, verse 1, on that day, it says, they read in the book of Moses in the audience of the people, and therein was found written that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of Elohim forever. I found that interesting where it's actually said in Deuteronomy 23, verse 3, and verse 8, that Nehemiah, where in other words, in Deuteronomy, it's translated as, it uses the word Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, but in Nehemiah, it's translated as Elohim, congregation of Elohim, showing how it's given us that liberty that it's interchangeable. All right, so now Kehila. So Kehila, I was surprised, occurs only twice, and once as congregation and the other as assembly, and you could see the context in both. So in Moses, it says in Deuteronomy 33, verse 4, it says, Moses commanded us a law, even the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob, meaning the entire people, the entire organization of Jacob. In this case, it's referring to Jacob, but it means the entire thing, the entire fixture, not just a part of it. The entire men, women, young and old, all, the entire people. But here in verse 7, in Nehemiah 5, verse 7, I set a great assembly against them. That's the word kahila here, but it's the great assembly does not represent the entirety of the people from which the assembly is formed. So that's why there's a difference between the use of the word assembly contextually, when it should be assembly, a gathering, versus an organization, a people, or something fixed. And lastly is moed. I will not consider moed, but I just felt it was good to put that up there because I was surprised myself to see that moed is often translated as congregation. But in context, I saw that moed is translated as congregation in connection with the ohel, with the tabernacle of meeting. So the word is translated congregation in view of it being an assembly, a gathering. So it's the tent of gathering or the tent of meeting. And in the sample references I've provided, that's how it's used. You'll notice it's always the word tabernacle is always there when it comes to moed, in the tabernacle, the congregation, in the tent of the congregation, or in so on and so on. That's what you see there. So it's the ohel, the tent. And so the word moed is translated 223 times as let me see how many times it is for 12 times. Well, actually 150 times as congregation, but all these occurrences are in connection that I've seen so far with the tent of meeting, because really we know that the moed usually has to do with time, the times, especially the appointed times of Elohim. So now in the New Testament, let's take a quick look. We'll try to be as quick as I can. We see the word, we see that is so that in the above, in the Old Testament references clearly show that Elohim incorporates his name or his title with the name by which he addresses his collective people comprising of Israelites and Gentiles. All the words used to address the people are tied to the word Elohim or Yud-Heh-Vav. Why? For one reason, the congregation or his organization is his peculiar treasure, as stated in Exodus chapter 19, verse 5. Moreover, as seen throughout the scriptures, Elohim assigns significant words that easily convey his purpose or thought. So in the case of his organization, he assigns his name to make it simple. This is my organization. And what better understanding can we convey to say that the people of Elohim are his organization? His sheep belongs to no other and is not limited to a particular function. The congregation of Elohim is not to be limited to a particular function, a particular goal. It encompasses the entire human experience. And this is why the law of Elohim is so rich and covers everything from behavior, from worship, from even keeping your house free of mildew and things. It covers everything. So we cannot have a name for the organization of Elohim that's limited to a particular task of the congregation. The name must allow for the fullness of what Elohim's people represent. We represent Elohim and his will. So moreover, as seen throughout the scriptures, Elohim assigns words that are easy to understand. He wants everyone to understand that the congregation is his. The organization is his, and therefore he addresses it by the above terms, which all convey the congregation, the organized people of Elohim, his people. Now let's consider some New Testament application. I'll do my best to try to conclude. So in the New Testament, there's one word. That's the Greek word ekklesia. That's specifically connected with the people of Elohim. Ecclesia, and it means a calling out, congregation, and assembly. That's how the Greek word is used. But of course, in context, especially when we understand that that is the same word that is used in the Septuagint for the words Ada, for the words kahal, and so on, then we understand that in context of the scriptures, the word ecclesia is referring to the body, the entire body of Messiah, not just what it does in terms of assembling that we must do. So this word occurs 118 times in the New Testament. It is first found in the Gospel of Matthew, where the sovereign told Peter, quote, "And I say also unto you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my ecclesia." And you could imagine he might have used the word Ada, Kahal, or something similar. "And the gates of Sheol shall not prevail against it." Matthew 16:18. The second time it is found in Matthew 18, where the absolute ruler, Messiah, instructed his disciples on how to manage congregants refusing to repent of sin, where he says, "And if he refuses to hear them, tell it to the ecclesia. But if he refuses even to hear the ecclesia, let him be to you a heathen and a tax collector." Tax collector. I didn't check, but that word is probably the same word James used in the book of James that speaks of lustful, and a tax. So that's in Matthew 18, verse 17. So here are 4 of 10 passages where ecclesia is specifically combined with the word theos. And you could see them there. I won't go through them for lack of time. Okay, let me bring them up. So there are, this is 4 out of the 10. Go back. This is 4 out of the 10, and the 6 others are listed below for you. So the important relevance of the word ecclesia, as I alluded to moments ago, is that it is, this word found in the New Testament is the same word found in the ancient Septuagint Greek Old Testament, also used by ancient Jews from about the 3rd century BC. It is believed to have been translated from Hebrew and Aramaic into Greek around the 3rd century in Alexandria. Thus, the word ecclesia, commonly translated as congregation in English, or church commonly, English versions of the New Testament, is the same Greek word used in the Septuagint to represent the congregation some 300 years before the elect one, Messiah, came to earth in the flesh. In other words, 300 years before, this word ecclesia was already being used in the Greek version of the scriptures. And this word ecclesia continued to be used throughout the New Testament to denote the congregation of Elohim, the united body of Elohim. Elohim wants his people to be together, as expressly prophesied in Micah chapter 2, verses 12 to 13. It says, "I will surely assemble, O Jacob, all of you. I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. I will put them together." Interesting, I looked at that word, it's Yahad. "As the sheep of Bozrah, I will put them together. I'll make them Yahad, as the sheep of Bozrah, as the flock in the midst of their fold. They shall make great noise by reason of the multitude of men." They will become great again. They will have renown. Verse 13, "The breakers come up before them. They have broken up and have passed through the gate and are gone out of it. And their king shall pass before them, and the eternal Yud-Heh-Vav-Veh on the head of them." That's in Micah chapter 2, verse 12 to 13. So Elohim intends for his people to be united and will make it happen. And all the time it requires our participation. Those who will participate in the work Elohim will do for his people. So the Old and New Testament facts show that Elohim, his servants, the prophets, and of course his son, use one name for his organization and united people on earth. Old and New Testament show the congregation of Elohim is always comprised of Shemites and a mixed group of people and a mixed group of other people. Briefly, for example, the Exodus of chapter 12 of Israelites and a mixed multitude leaving Egypt. Exodus chapter 19, 20, the Sinai covenant with the people. Isaiah 56, welcoming strangers and eunuchs. The temporary separation of Israel from mixed multitudes of Nehemiah 13 are shown reunited later on, especially in the book of Acts. Acts chapter 2 account of the Pentecost with a variety of people coming to faith, coming to the one Elohim. Throughout the entire New Testament, we see that ongoing, all sorts of people coming united in one Elohim under one name. So in retrospect, at least the name Elohim assigned by act or statute, which all his servants applied, is the divinely assigned corporate name of his organization on earth. Due to the unrepented lust of many, the adversary and his minions have blinded, deceived, divided many believers. Let me say it again. Due to the unrepented lust of many. That's why Satan, as the enemy, as a roaring lion, he can't just devour anybody. He seeks those whom he may devour. Those who are in Elohim's hand, he cannot touch. So the adversary and his minions have blinded, deceived, divided many believers and have made them apathetic to the organization's name, while so keeping us divided by different denominations and group names. So he's made us apathetic. What's in a name? Doesn't matter, but it does matter. Because different names will dilute our impact. Because the world is watching and Israel is watching. And if we're so divided, broken up into all these different factions and denominations, we have very little impact. But when all of us who will decide to unite, then it will be seen differently. Then our love can be seen. For they shall know you are my disciples by our love, by our love. How will they see our love if we're so divided? But when they see a community of believers, as did Balaam in the Old Testament, as did so many in the New Testament, when they see a people cohesive, working together, wherever they are, no matter what location they're in, they can work together. They can work together. So, and so by working, being so united, we can have that impact. We will not be diluted. The name is important. The name is important. So while secular business owners are smart enough to know it is best to assign one name to their organizations, many people who claim to be ministers of Elohim choose to continue giving numerous and various names to their organizations, thus creating more of a split. The son of Elohim, who is building and leading Elohim's organization, said, the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light, as found in Luke 16, verse 8. Look at the companies of this world. They know to brand their name. They know that, and they just want to make money or whatever, power, whatever it is they're seeking, but they know to keep one name so that all who come to them will come under one banner, not under all these different banners, and so lose strength. For this disregard for the name by which Elohim chose to address his own organization is one of many causes for the shameful conditions of organizations claiming to be of Elohim. We have been divided by error and falsehood of others as well as our own for too long. Let us stop being unwise and recognize and observe Elohim's statute regarding the name by which he saw fit to address his one organization on earth. And I'm closing. For because the foolishness of Elohim is wiser than men, and the weakness of Elohim is stronger than men. So we saw in the Old and New Testament, Elohim saw fit to address his organization by a certain way. He assigned the organization his name, the congregation of Elohim, the congregation of, specifically, I should say, of Yud-Heh-Vav-Veh, of the eternal, and of his title, Elohim. We might think that's not that important. What's in a name? But if Elohim saw fit to do that, if that is something even weak he was doing, foolish he was doing, we know that's not the case. But filtering my thoughts through 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 25, the weakness and foolishness of Elohim is by far greater than the wisdom and strength of men. So what we may think is a small thing is a big thing, because these names keep and empower the breaking apart of Elohim's name. The moment we stick on two name and we defend it, then all those who hold that name will fall away from it. If we resist the adversary, he will flee from us. The name Edat, Kahal, Ecclesia, or congregation, or Ecclesia, these are pure things that belong only to the people of Elohim. We should not abandon them to the adversary. So let's stop being unwise. So the consensus of the scriptures, and I am closing, show that he associates his ineffable name and title to his organization. The organization or body of Messiah is his, and therefore he addresses it by terms which all convey an organization or congregation that is exclusively his own. Although there may not be a direct command to call his organization by that name, the fact that he and his son addressed it by that name repeatedly throughout the scriptures has shown it to us as a by statute or act on his part, that it is the name that should be applied to the corporate body of the that he is calling, that's in his hands. We should be humble and wise to do the same, to choose the same name for the body of Messiah, to identify ourselves by that same name. If we want to express congregation, the word congregation in Hebrew, from what I've seen, Ada would be the better choice, as it seems to be the most used of the four Hebrew words of four reviewed in the Old Testament. In view of these factors, it is sound to recommend that the organization of Elohim should be called Eda Elohim or Eda Elohim Yahad. And if people are in Greek-speaking locations, of course, Ecclesia Theos Sekaelo or Ecclesias Theos Synago would be fine, or at least reasonable. The Greek word Sikaelio and Synago, as found in Luke chapter 9, verse 1 and Acts 15, verse 16, respectively, means together, a union. Since we are English speakers, whatever we use, it would be wise to include the translation as a translation of the Hebrew so to include the translation as congregation of Elohim. So in final conclusion, my final statement, thus it behooves his servants to recognize, acknowledge, and reclaim the name Elohim uses to represent his organization, the body of Messiah. We know that Elohim wants his people to be united as declared throughout the scriptures. We saw what words Elohim and his servants used to address his organization throughout the Old and New Testament. We saw that the success and growth of an organization requires the element of a meaningful name among other parts. This is one of specific steps we can implement to break down the enemy's barriers and stronghold of division. As we know, Elohim does not expect the divisive denominations to welcome or cooperate with this. Neither should we have that expectation. That's not the expectation. What Elohim foreknew and reveals is that those who are lost while seeking the way and those who are thirsty for it will find it. That is what our expectation should be. That is why he and all who are his greatly desire and rejoice over. So should we. For too long, we have been divided by the enemy's confusing and divisive lies. Let us then act accordingly in the right faith of his knowledge to take this simple yet important step of reclaiming the name by which the eternal Elohim, the power over all, addressed his one organization on earth, on which all his servants continue to observe. Thank you for listening.
That was dynamite. Woo! What a lesson. I certainly hope that
Great. God bless you, bro.
I hope during
Thanks to
the
Elohim.
discussion portion that this could come up and you can talk about it a little bit.
Sure.
So I'm going to call on the Heisen right now to get us going back, and so we can get to that discussion quickly. Heisen.
Yeah, give me a minute here, Jack. I gotta get it up
Oh
here.
yeah, this is your first time.
A lot of buttons to push.
Well, we've got that on recorded now, so we can go back and listen to this some more, get a hold of the evidence that he provides. Yeah, here we are. When the ark rested, Moshe said, "Return, O Yahweh, to the 10,000 thousands of Israel." Amen.
We pray together.
Avinu shebashamayim yikadosh shimka vayitbarech malkutka retzonaka yehasui bashamayim uvaretz vatitena lachamenu teridit umichol lanuki totinu kaasher amaknu makalim lakotim lanu be'ala tevi'inu lidei nisayon veshomrenu Mikol Ra Yomain.
Our Father in the sky, may your name be sanctified. May your reign be blessed. Your will be done in sky and land continually. Give us our bread. Forgive us our sin debts, as we forgive the debt of those who sin against us. Do not bring us into the nets of a snare, and protect us from the evil one. Amen.
We minister shalom.
Zeyakem l'shalom, malakei shalom, malakei elyon. Mi melech malkei hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
May your departure be in shalom. Malakim of shalom. Malakim of the Elyon. Coming forth from the sovereign of sovereigns, the set apart one. Blessed is he. We sing the song of peace.
Here's
Shalom,
your
my friend.
opportunity. Shalom, my friends. Shalom to you
Shalom to
now.
you.
Shalom, my
Shalom, my
friends.
friends.
May Yahweh's
May Yahweh's
mercy bless you well, my
bless you well, my
friends.
friends.
In all your
In all your
living
living
and through your
and through your
loving,
loving,
Yahweh be your
Yahweh
shalom.
be your shalom,
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 shalom.
shalom.
Yahweh
Yahweh be
be
your
your
shalom.
shalom. Way to go, Steve. Great to be friends, isn't it? Is that the end of the service? Services?
Oh, let me double. I thought it was Jackson. I could be wrong now.
That's
Oh,
all
there.
right.
Okay, all right. We got
That's a
little more.
good place to end.
Okay.
The
all
leader
right.
blessed.
Yivarekeka Yahweh vayishmareka. Ya'er Yahweh panaveleka vikuneka. Yisa Yahweh panaveleka v'yasem leka shalom. B'shem Yehoshua HaMashiach Sar Shalom. Amen.
Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Prince of Peace.
Amen.
Amen.
There you go. The service is finito. And yes, thank you all for coming in live. Appreciate it so very much. Without you, we would have not much, just a few people. Thank you. Come back again next week. Now, as it's become our custom, we have a discussion, well, really about whatever you're interested in. And our man, Professor Gregory Smith, is going to lead that discussion right now.
Well, thank you, Jackson. And thank you, Brother Souffrant, for a wonderful message. Very earnest and I believe well received. And I think that there's a lot in that aspect there. So we're going to start our discussion here. We can discuss perhaps back and forth as the Yahad custom is. The preacher will come and present if you have questions of him, or if you'd like to make comments, that's fine. Or we can share Psalms, or if there's a scripture that the Father's been showing you this week, or if there is a prayer request that you would like us to consider. Perhaps you missed our first prayer request in the service. Maybe there's something going on in the world that relates to what the Father is doing in the earth. Any of that is open field here. So let's begin. Who would like to start with our discussion?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Byron.
Yes, this is Byron. I live just down the street from Brother Jackson. And, you know, today was a very good day. The message that we received today, I really thought our Brother Jackson made a slam dunk on. And he's a true Berean. And I would like to request that he would send us some kind of link to his notes and things, because he touched on a very serious issue. And the issue is spirit, really. That's what I got out of everything.
Yeah, I think Brother Souffrant, if you could put a link down there for Byron, that would be useful. If there's anything perhaps you would like to share relative to either notes or your link.
Yeah, I didn't post anything yet because this is just done. But once I'm done with it, I could send someone the file and then make it available to others.
Okay, Byron, if you'd like to give your email there in the text for Brother Souffrant.
That's great. I've already got, so he's Congregation of Elohim, and if I'm going to look that up, so I'll just do that outside of here, you know.
Okay, very good. All right, very good. Baruch Hashem. All right, anyone else has something to share? Brother Holsapple.
Hey, shalom, everyone. Glad to be here. Yes, I think that is a message, you know, for today, for yesterday, and even tomorrow, that so many times, you know, it said, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh. And, you know, a lot of these people that are using different things, different names, and they think it's okay, but the prophets used to be feared. They used to fear, but it wasn't necessarily the prophet, it was Yahweh himself. So when they came, they was in fear and in awe because they did these mighty works and these mighty things. And I believe that, you know, if you can't get rid of the truth, if you can't stop his name, if you can't stop the truth, then you just flood it, you know. And I think that's what we see today is a lot of these churches and places, it becomes a man-made doctrine instead of about the creator. Even in the feast days, it's about the creator, you know, and a lot of times I think it's become
Amen,
about
bro.
man.
Amen.
Yes. So, you know, when we take all that away from ourselves and put it all into the creator, then that's, you know, that's where it's all about. That's what it's all about. And I believe that's what the message, that's what I got out of it. It's all about the creator. Now, a lot of times I'll throw this in there too, that a lot of people say, well, just like you said, the name don't matter. But I found the people that say that divide, and they get upset about the names, and they get all distraught about, Teshiva and all these things. They come up with all these different things but if we are educated, if we know his name, if we have that truth, then why not use it? Why not use the power? And it talks of they know this, they know that, but they don't have they don't use the power. So to use his power, I believe we need to use everything that we can to, and that unites us more than anything. I believe if we know we're brothers and sisters, we unite. When we want to kind of act like that, then it's more of a division eventually. The true brothers and sisters unite. We all have that same love, and great message. Yahweh bless. Shalom, shalom.
Well, thank you, brother. Thank you. Baruch Hashem.
I've got a little something to add to that. Yeah, thank you, Brother Holsapple, because you usually hit it right on the head. I thought it was a great sermon, something I've been interested in. I could say that during the entire thing kept my attention. And Brother Souffrant and I have spoken about this and written to each other about it quite a few times. What I had mentioned to him last time, maybe I'll get this right, maybe I won't, but I think that, say, if I was a Methodist and I went to a Methodist church, I'm going to get about the same doctrine no matter where I go. Or a Baptist church, the same doctrine. It's, for some people anyway, the name on that church tells us what it believes, even though most people don't care. They really go to church because they feel welcome there, or their family is ministered there. But seeing as how there's like 40,000 denominations, it's splitting, it's dividing, but it's multiplying by dividing. This is what I was taught anyway. And what if we had 40,000 that all had the same name? What would we do with that? Well, it wouldn't be much difference. And to tell you the truth, like you, I've been in a lot of churches in my life, a lot of them, especially when I was a music evangelist. I just went from one to the other. Now, even going to churches like Quaker Church or Mormon Church, look, I really didn't see much difference in the actual service. I don't think most of the time, except when I went to a Church of Christ, that was the only time that I really saw a big difference in the service. But primarily, what goes on in public is just all milk toast. Milk toast. They appeal to God, who for most people is a man with a big long beard sitting up in the sky someplace on a throne. A man, in fact, some people, I did a sermon once on God is not a man. A lot of people thought that God was a man, a big man up in the sky. Because, in the Old Testament, he's described with pinions, that is, feathers, and his strong right arm. So he's got one arm that's big, one arm that's little, etc., like that. So there could certainly be some confusion in that way. My question always is this Elohim's will or not? But it might be that it's his will for non-apostate churches to come back to the beginning. And certainly that has been our attempt. And that's also the attempt of the congregation of Elohim in Queens, New York, to come back to the beginning again. That is the primitive faith of Yeshua HaMashiach. And we know that Yeshua probably didn't use the word ecclesia, although, as Jackson said, it really means the called out ones. My question would be, called out of what? Called out of the synagogue? Called out of the temple business? Not sure. But I've always, in my literature that I've written, I always use the word kahal, because it seemed to be, I know now that it's not true, but I thought it was the most prevalent at the time. So all the more reason that I really like, I like this study, and I've learned a lot from it. And the question that I really want to try to resolve a little bit here is, should we do it? You know what? A couple of years ago, we did bring this up for a vote, and we did add the congregation of Elohim to our names. I went back and looked in the notes and everything. And that's an interesting thing, that we had already done that, but not really in a public sense. You see? So the decision to be made is, should we make that official? Should we could say Congregation of Elohim, AKA, or also known as, whatever. I'll leave it up to you all. That is going to be a very good decision. That's why I want you to study on this and to think about it and decide what you would see as the best choice.
Brother Snyder, can I say a few things?
No? Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Thank you. You had asked an interesting question, that is, let me say your observation that if all these existing denominations would all choose the same name, there would be no. Oh, hold on, please. Yeah. So if all the organizations, these denominations would choose the same name, there would be really no difference. I kind of agree, but also you've mentioned that it might be the will of Elohim that none of these false groups should reunite. That tends to be my perspective too. However, there would be a difference. The difference is that the name that we would be using is a name by which Elohim and the prophets use. It's not something that we've contrived. Also, it is something more holistic, more broad, that allows for the entirety of the word of Elohim, not just one aspect like, say, Baptist or Advent, or in a case of a place, Bethel, or some other thing. It's specific, or to some other task. It's linked solely to Elohim, and yes, others may take on that name, but they would soon be proven false. Why? Because if we so desire it, and Elohim knows why we're doing it, is to bring him glory and honor, and not, he will act. See, that's where we need to be believing that it's not just going to be, we're not just going to be one of many denominations. A matter of fact, I didn't emphasize that enough, but we should not be a denomination. Elohim's congregation is not a denomination. It's not a part of anything on this earth, except it's the part of Elohim. It's the body of Messiah, and the body of Messiah is not comprised of the denominations. So what would happen, I am believing that if we do that, we would become a beacon, for one, easy beacon for all those who are seeking the same thing to find it. That's one. And by so doing, all those who want the same thing over time would eventually come together. And all those who would so and say have the same name that are not true would eventually break away. They would divorce themselves from that. I used to be a member of the Worldwide Church of God, and I've seen them do that. Like when they were called the Worldwide Church of God, they were thousands, over 100,000. And they were really the only organization doing this type of thing from so early on in our lifetime. But what you know what they did? They started,
Yes.
those who were against it started to introduce different ideas. They played the telephone game. The minister says one thing, but by the time it gets to the other, it's a totally different message. And then they changed the Bible. They discouraged the use of the King James and encouraged the use of an NIV, so they could show some things that they could not otherwise show using the King James. I'm not a King James person, but I respect all the older versions of the scriptures. That's me. But it was no interest in how they got rid of that. Then they changed the name and made it illegal by law. They actually had it legal, had it where you could, and no other organization could use that name again. So they banned the Worldwide Church of God name so that none of the others could use it. So the name is important, and what would happen, the others would break away from it.
Well,
that's really what would happen.
Shack
Yeah.
denomination has just turned into another obscure vanilla kind of church. And yes, you're right there. Everybody's gone. Just so happens this week I was looking at their doctrinal statement, and I was thinking how far they've come
Yeah,
into obscurity. Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, I love to comp there. They also even fell away to Christ Mass and Ishtar. Eventually, they totally repudiated everything that had been taught for years relative to the importance of keeping the 10 Commandments. And if you're going to do a holiday, do Yah's holiday.
Yeah.
Don't make up your own. They fell away. Yeah, Brother James in Michigan. He was in the Worldwide Church of God for a long time too.
Okay.
He told me all about that. I didn't have any knowledge of a lot of that, although I did run across Armstrong's literature, even early on in my life.
But
Plain
what,
truth.
I mean, another way the enemy works to destroy things is to misrepresent it as negative, or misrepresent the leader to make him more than he really is, and so his dirty laundry can be shown, and then dismiss him entirely. They made Mr. Armstrong into really what he was not. Like he was a prophet and all of that, and that was a big mistake. Because when some of the things he said failed, it looks like everything he was teaching was wrong, even the keeping of the commandments. Why? Because he's a false prophet, because what he said did not. I don't regard him as a false prophet. I regard him as just as a servant of Elohim, who in whatever capacity Elohim allowed him to work, because evidently he did a great work where so many people who never were keeping Sabbath, especially not the high holy days, were keeping it year after year with joy. But this is what I wanted to add quickly. See, some of the things, like there are many times a particular task among a work of the congregation impacts us, where leaders feel this is what I want to focus on. And so they create an organization with the name emphasizing that work. It seems good, but it's not good. When they do that, they now limit the scope, reach and access of what the congregation of Elohim is supposed to be, because now it's focused on one thing. Rather, what I realized, what I was praying, is what came to my mind is what they should do is make that focus a ministry of the congregation of Elohim. They don't need to abandon it. Like, for instance, I think of New Earth Restoration as that's actually an official name. I'm not saying you need to, but what I would say is that can be a ministry of the congregation of Elohim Yahad. If that makes sense. So we don't need to abandon those names, but just make them part of understanding the entire organization belongs to Elohim. And all of these are things that Elohim are doing through his organization, if that makes sense.
Yeah, going back to one comment, just out of curiosity, sort of piqued my interest with regard to, of course, I don't have any knowledge of the history other than just, like I said, cursory studies of the Worldwide Church of God. But my understanding was that Armstrong passed away, and then it turned over to someone who went away backwards.
Yes, that's exactly true. He passed away. It was given to a gentleman by the name of Takach. That's when I came in. I wasn't in when Mr. Armstrong was alive. I came in the mid 1990s and left left 2000, officially left. But yes, you are right. He passed away. But what they did, because the error creeps in where there was Armstrongism, really. There was a cult personality where there were some people that, again, regarded Armstrong too highly, made him what he was not. And the adversary used that to also bring the organization down. Because a lot of these people that were so committed to Armstrong, when they could prove that some of the things he said, because he would say he expects Messiah to return in X amount of years because of what he sees happening in the nations. And these predictions, his judgments would be wrong. But people would say he was a false prophet because he made those claims which never came to pass. And so that undermined the strength of many who stayed in the organization believing that Armstrong was some sort of prophet. So they proved he was not a prophet. And so therefore, everything else he did was of no worth. That's kind of like what kind of happened. And then they slowly brought in the things about Christmas and Easter, as you said. I was there and they lied. They denied that they were doing it.